It's Monday, the 4th of July, 2022. Welcome to the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, we've got 5 stories to get through in 5 minutes. Let's jump into it. Story number 1, we've talked a bit about the ordinary result on the local bourse, down 10.2% for the financial year. But globally, the story is even worse for the first 6 months of 2022.
That's right. The US stock market recorded its worst first half year of trading in more than 50 years. On Friday, the S&P 500 closed out the half down more than 16% for the 6 months. The Nasdaq posted its biggest ever losses over the same period. Not much better in Europe. In the UK, recession fears drove the FTSE 100 to its worst month since the early days of the pandemic. If you really want to get an overall picture, look at the MSCI World Equity Index, widely used as a global benchmark. The index has lost more than 20% in the last 6 months, with $13 trillion US dollars wiped off world stocks since the start of 2022. Now, it is all about inflation and rising interest rates. Add in the war in Ukraine, higher energy prices, collapsing business and consumer confidence. There's still COVID-related closures in different parts of the world, notably China. And certainly momentum is against equities. One sector hit particularly hard is the tech stocks. The tech-heavy Nasdaq has lost $5.4 trillion US dollars in value since the start of this year. But the sell-off has been reasonably broad. It's not just the Apples of the world, it's the Disneys of the world, it's the Targets of the world. It's very, very broad-based.
All right, Sean, on to story number 2. And Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has visited war-torn Ukraine, meeting with leaders and touring cities in the Kyiv region. It's an important show of solidarity, really, with Ukraine. And the Kyiv governor wrote online last night that Mr. Albanese was amazed by what he saw, including the destruction of a lot of homes. And I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about this over the next day or two. But I'd be interested in your take on everything that preceded the visit to Ukraine. There was a week of meetings with world leaders at NATO, then a visit to France for a sit-down with President Emmanuel Macron. Would you say that part of the trip was a success?
Oh, look, I'd say so, especially if you look at the video the Prime Minister posted on social media over the weekend, footage of him meeting and hugging Emmanuel Macron, posing for photos with their partners, just to really stick the boot into former Prime Minister Scott Morrison, delivering a speech where he declared trust, respect and honesty matters. So I'd say France and Australia are friends again. As for NATO, well, Australia stood up on the world stage. The Prime Minister met with a lot of world leaders, united in condemning Russia over Ukraine and in declaring China a threat for the first time. But Mr. Albanese really got under the skin of Beijing when he said China should distance itself from Russia, learn lessons from the Ukraine invasion and consider what it means for its own ambitions for Taiwan. Looks like services between Beijing and Canberra are back to normal.
Yeah, it would appear that way. On to story number 3, Sean, and auction clearance rates have fallen to their lowest level in more than 2 years. Not a good sign for the housing market after last week's CoreLogic data showed another slump in house prices.
CoreLogic recorded a 55% preliminary clearance rate across the capital cities on the weekend. That's the weakest result since April 2020, when we were just heading into lockdowns. In Sydney, the clearance rate was just 52.5%, which may actually fall below 50% once final results are in. Melbourne's preliminary clearance rate was 57% from 628 auctions. That was down from 1,000 a week ago, and more sellers withdrew homes from auctions as well across the country. The highest clearance rate in the country was Adelaide at 71%. Not surprising, really, because that's the city where prices still rose by more than 1% in June.
All right, now, Sean, story number 4 is all about our favourite billionaire, Elon Musk. He's met the Pope.
He has. I'm not really sure why, Michael, but he tweeted a picture of himself and 4 of his teenage children standing alongside Pope Francis at what appeared to be a private meeting. I'd love to know what they talked about, Twitter, Tesla, SpaceX. Not sure what the Pope's really into. Apparently, whenever the Pope meets with corporate leaders, he urges them to use wealth and technology to help the poor. And Mr. Musk certainly has the capacity to do that.
Yeah, he sure does. All right, last one, Sean, and I reckon this could almost be my favourite story of the week, and it's only Monday. It's about the secret recipe for WD-40, which is the product that I always seem to buy whenever I'm in Bunnings.
You are not alone there. Look, apparently the formula is locked away in a bank vault in San Diego. Everybody knows WD-40, the blue and yellow cans, a very distinctive smell, and the seeming ability to silence any squeaky door or hinge. The story's in the Times because Gary Ridge, the company's CEO, is stepping down this month after 25 years in the job. The formula for the oil is written by hand, in pencil, on a notepad, and kept in a Bank of America vault. When it was moved in 2018 for the company's 65th anniversary, it was handcuffed to the CEO and escorted in an armoured car. Mr. Ridge can now retire knowing the recipes remained a secret under his watch.
I love that story. What a cracker. All right, that's it. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Monday, the 4th of July, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as some interviews. Today, we are talking about property prices. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.